I threw away the roses and leaped out of the heart-shaped candle circle he had arranged on the ground. Today was supposed to be the day he proposed to me, May 21st, 2003. At this moment, Michael still didn't understand the meaning of Phoenix Man. He couldn't comprehend why I would treat him this way. After all, it was I who had pursued him before he proposed. It wasn't, as he claimed, that I forced him into marriage.
Michael, how could you not understand? This isn't about love. It's about your father needing a kidney transplant.
What are you talking about? I proposed because I love you.
It was his father, my former father-in-law, who had a serious illness and needed a transplant. His ambiguous partner, Emily, fled abroad upon seeing the high costs. Only then did Michael remember me, the hopeless romantic, the fool, the backup plan, and reluctantly proposed to me to fill the bottomless pit of his family's expenses.
Don't lie to me. You only proposed because Emily ran away and you needed someone to pay for the transplant.
That's not true. I love you, Sarah.
Back then, when my dream man proposed, I was overjoyed and agreed without hesitation. But today, I would never agree again. I threw away the roses and leaped out of the heart-shaped candle circle he had arranged on the ground. Today was supposed to be the day he proposed to me, May 21st, 2003. At this moment, Michael still didn't understand the meaning of Phoenix Man. He couldn't comprehend why I would treat him this way. After all, it was I who had pursued him before he proposed. It wasn't, as he claimed, that I forced him into marriage. Rather, it was his father, my former father-in-law, who had kidney cancer and needed a transplant. His ambiguous partner, Emily, fled abroad upon seeing the high costs. Only then did Michael remember me, the hopeless romantic, the fool, the backup plan, and reluctantly proposed to me to fill the bottomless pit of his family's expenses. Back then, when my dream man proposed, I was overjoyed and agreed without hesitation. But today, I would never agree again. Unexpectedly, the crowd that had been watching the commotion just moments ago now acted as if they were blind, ignoring me completely. Just as Michael was about to grab me, a slender, fair hand seized his claw.
Sir, please behave yourself.
The owner of the hand had such a pleasant voice. I followed the strong, muscular arm with my gaze. It was David.
David?
My dad's friend, the CEO of Fongjian Group, John's eldest son, David. He was dressed in a tailored black suit that accentuated his well-built physique, and his gold-rimmed glasses added a touch of restrained allure. Years ago, he had expressed his feelings for me, but I thought he was 10 years older than me, practically an uncle. Moreover, I was wholeheartedly infatuated with Michael, the poor boy.
Who do you think you are? How dare you interfere? Do you know I am the future son-in-law of the Sue Group?
What a thick-skinned man. I hadn't even agreed, yet he already considered himself the son-in-law? He thought that the Sue Group's immense wealth and influence in City A would make anyone let go upon hearing his words. Unexpectedly, I heard a crack, followed by Michael's pig-like scream echoing through the street. David deftly dislocated Michael's arm with one hand. I had forgotten he was a medical doctor. I threw away the roses and leaped out of the heart-shaped candle circle Michael had arranged on the ground. Today was supposed to be the day he proposed to me, May 21st, 2003. Michael still couldn't grasp the concept of Phoenix Man. He didn't understand why I was treating him this way. After all, I had pursued him before he proposed. It wasn't, as he claimed, that I forced him into marriage. It was his father, my former father-in-law, who had a severe illness and needed a transplant. His ambiguous partner, Emily, fled abroad upon seeing the high costs. Only then did Michael remember me, the hopeless romantic, the fool, the backup plan, and reluctantly proposed to me to cover his family's expenses. Back then, when my dream man proposed, I was overjoyed and agreed without hesitation. But today, I would never agree again. I threw away the roses and leaped out of the heart-shaped candle circle he had arranged on the ground. Today was supposed to be the day he proposed to me, May 21st, 2003. Michael still didn't understand the meaning of Phoenix Man. He couldn't comprehend why I would treat him this way.
Sarah, why are you doing this? I thought you wanted this.
You thought wrong, Michael. It was never about what I wanted. It was about your father, remember? Your father, who needed a transplant.
Sarah, please.
No, Michael. It's not about begging. You used me, just like Emily did. But I won't be your backup plan anymore.
At that moment, I stormed out, leaving Michael standing in the circle of extinguished candles.
Miss Emily, did you eat garlic? Why does your breath smell so strong?
David's deep voice seemed out of place with such words. It was sharp and merciless.
Young Master David, how do you know her? She was the campus belle at our school.
Emily's body trembled slightly. Her campus sounded more like laugh. I had indeed shamelessly pursued Michael for 2 years. I once asked him if he was with Emily. He told me he wasn't. Foolishly, I believed him and brought him food, drinks, and branded clothes daily. Looking back, I see he just saw me as an ATM, a nanny.
Oh, I think Sarah should also be a campus belle. As for you, Miss Emily, what kind of flower are you? A white lotus? Or a camellia? Or perhaps just a green leaf to set off Sarah?
David adjusted his glasses, nodded politely, and led me away. I glanced back to see Emily fuming with anger.
Do you know Emily? Wasn't she from an ordinary family? How could she appear at a top-tier event in City A?
Sarah, are you jealous?
I quickly pulled my hand away and smiled.
No, I was just curious.
Her mother is a servant in my family and begged me to bring her here to broaden her horizons.
Emily's mother was actually a servant in David's family. However, at school, she spent money lavishly, with designer bags and watches, always adorned with luxury items. Moreover, I heard she occasionally sponsored some poor students and was quite popular. And I had seen those luxury items, they were genuine. I needed to figure out how she got her hands on those authentic goods. Soon, I spotted Emily. She was chatting with a lady wearing the latest Patek Philippe watch.
Mrs. Smith, this watch looks a bit old-fashioned for your age. Look at mine, I think it suits your status better.
As she spoke, Emily raised her wrist, revealing a Rolex Submariner. I remembered it was a 2003 model, costing nearly $100,000. How could Emily afford such an expensive item?
A Rolex, huh? I have one at home, just didn't wear it today.
Mrs. Smith, this is this year's new model, the Submariner. This year is the year of the horse, a prosperous year.
Emily said, observing Mrs. Smith's expression, which showed little interest.
Oh, I only have one, a new model, which I asked a friend to buy from Italy. There are only a few in the country.
Hearing it was rare, Mrs. Smith eagerly wanted to exchange her Patek Philippe for it. She said if the price wasn't enough, she would give her a pair of Australian white earrings next time they met. Emily reluctantly accepted, but I noticed her smugly tapping her foot on the floor. After the successful transaction, Emily exchanged a few pleasantries with Mrs. Smith and then made an excuse to leave. I quickly approached.
Aunt Mary, do you know that girl well?
I threw away the roses and leaped out of the heart-shaped candle circle he had arranged on the ground. Today was supposed to be the day he proposed to me, May 21st, 2003. At this moment, Michael still didn't understand the meaning of Phoenix Man. He couldn't comprehend why I would treat him this way.
Michael, You just don't get it, do you?
Sarah, what's wrong? I thought you wanted this.
He still didn't understand. It wasn't as he claimed, that I forced him into marriage. Rather, it was his father, my former father-in-law, who needed a transplant. When his ambiguous partner, Emily, fled abroad upon seeing the high costs, only then did Michael remember me, the hopeless romantic.
But Sarah, it was you who pursued me. I don't understand why you're acting like this now.
And I regret every second of it. You only proposed to me to fill the bottomless pit of your family's expenses.
Back then, when my dream man proposed, I was overjoyed and agreed without hesitation. But today, I would never agree again. Dad walked over, looking at me with concern.
Sarah, do you still like that boy?
Don't worry, Dad. I don't care for a Phoenix man. Where else can I find a man as good as you?
Dad smiled with relief, but I didn't dare to look up. The bitterness and regret in my heart made me unable to face him. On this day years ago, I accepted Michael's proposal. At just 18, I brought him home that very night. When Dad saw the ring on my finger, he was so angry he had a stroke and ended up in the ICU.
Uncle Tom, don't worry. Sarah has come to her senses now. She just rejected that guy today. With me around, she won't make any mistakes.
Dad looked at him, then at me, and nodded meaningfully. I blushed. Emily was arrested and would definitely go to jail, so Michael couldn't have a child with her, and there wouldn't be a Lily. My heart was at ease. Unexpectedly, my peace was shattered the next day. Michael actually came to my school, North High School. He was dressed the same as yesterday, even the roses were the same, with wilted petals falling off.
Sarah, marry me.
He knelt on one knee, looking at me with his still swollen chin, full of affection.
Michael, stay away from me. Your schemes are all over my face. Finding a new girlfriend without a break, your brain must be full of nonsense.
Michael's face turned red and white from my scolding.
Sarah, are you mad because I liked Emily? I'm telling you today, I don't like her anymore. How can she compare to you? She's deceitful, how can she match up to you?
Don't be modest. You two are a perfect match. Birds of a feather.
With that, I prepared to leave.
Sarah! Can you stop this nonsense? I'm giving you one more chance. If you talk to me nicely now, I can pretend nothing happened.
Oh, look at you. David didn't hit you hard enough yesterday. Didn't stretch your face a bit more? Shameless, or is your brain full of nonsense? Can't you understand? Get lost. I don't like you.
I walked around him and strode away. Sarah, I agree to marry you. Just let Emily go. Michael shouted behind me. The students passing by all stopped and looked at me.
Sarah, please. I'll marry you. Just let her go.
I rolled my eyes in anger and blew away the strands of hair on my face. Ha, in my previous life, I must have been blind to fall for such a clueless, deaf, and self-centered man. I turned around on the spot, and Michael's face immediately lit up with a huge smile, as if saying, "See, I can still control you completely."
You really think you can control me, Michael?
Then, I swung my bag in a wide arc and let it hit Michael's head in a parabolic trajectory.
Ah!
Michael's nose started bleeding, and he fell to the ground unconscious. Soon, some people came and carried him away. Those people were my bodyguards. David was worried that someone might harm me because of Emily, and I agreed to have them around. With them handling Michael, I picked up my bag and went to class without worry. 3 days after Michael received the 250,000 yuan check, he was arrested.
Michael, You're under arrest for extortion.
The police, based on the text messages he sent me and the bank footage of him cashing the check, charged him with extortion. Both Emily and Michael ended up in jail. I was happy, thinking I could live a life without them. But then, a video suddenly started circulating on the internet. The title was Rich Second Generation Fails to Break Up a Couple, Frames Them and Sends Them to Jail. In the video, I was looking at him with admiration, bringing him water on the basketball court, while Emily slapped me and called me a homewrecker. The video continued with an audio recording of me confessing my feelings to Michael. The video was reposted and spread to blogs, and soon, I was being criticized everywhere.
Rich second generation thinks she's so great. Shameless. If she can't have him, she'll destroy him.
She's the daughter of the Sioux group. Of course, she has money and power.
Isn't that Sarah? Always chasing after the most handsome guy in our department. Not only is she thick-skinned, but also ruthless.
Michael still had a backup plan? I was somewhat relieved that the internet wasn't as developed back then. If it were 20 years later, I might have been doxxed to my doorstep. I laughed, finding it all very childish. I closed my computer, took a shower, and came back. The public opinion had completely flipped. Someone had posted a new video on the original thread. Emily was secretly swapping a wealthy lady's bracelet and impersonating a rich heiress, exchanging fake goods for real ones. There were also photos of the fake and real items, along with Emily's confession. Additionally, there were threatening text messages from Michael to me. The comments below were now entirely in my favor.
Vicious couple trying to drain the innocent girl, but got exposed and became furious.
Huh. I knew it. How could a rich girl like him? Turns out they were a pair of scammers.
Sarah was young and easily deceived. That couple should be tied up and not allowed to harm others.
Who was so quick and sharp? I got dressed and went downstairs, only to see David coming to announce the victory.
Sarah, I'm here to claim credit.
I was in a good mood, so I went to the restaurant with him. It turned out he wasn't here to claim credit. He was here to tell me that the sentences for Emily and Michael had been decided.
Emily was sentenced to 4 years in prison for fraud and fined 1 million yuan. Michael was sentenced to 1 year in prison for extortion and fined 300,000 yuan.
After hearing everything, I felt a weight lifted off my chest.
Thank you for helping me clarify the post today.
You know, what I want is not a thank you. It's you.
His gaze was like the warm sun in winter, making my face flush slightly.
Can you wait for me for 2 years?
2 years. 2 years later is when Lily will be born. I must ensure that this criminal can never appear in society again.
I'll wait for you, my little bride.
After that day, David and I entered a state of being more than friends, but not quite lovers. No kissing or hugging, just mutual trust and care. Life was light and pleasant. I even thought I could ignore Lily's existence and immediately agree to be David's girlfriend. Until that day. She was heavily pregnant, busy at a barbecue stall. Emily and Michael had committed a crime and were expelled from school. Without a degree and with a criminal record, running a barbecue stall was already quite good. But how could they be out in less than 3 years?
David, how come they're out so soon?
3 months ago, Emily became pregnant while in prison. Until a few days ago, her belly was too big, so she was temporarily released for medical reasons. As for whose child it was, she hadn't told anyone. Judging by the size of her belly, it must be Lily.
Michael? I walked up to the barbecue stall, where a bald man was grilling. I wasn't sure it was him because in my previous life, Michael was always well-groomed and refined. Now, this person was wearing a greasy tank top, had a shaved head, and a big belly.
Michael, is that you?
Sarah! You!
As he spoke, he got up and tried to punch me. I swiftly stepped back, and his punch missed.
Mr. Zhao, do you miss the days inside?
Michael probably remembered the pain of dislocation, his eyes dodged, and he spat on the ground.
Get lost as far as you can.
Michael, you still owe me 1.3 million. You haven't paid back a single cent. What? Is this how you treat your creditor and benefactor?
Michael's face instantly turned red, and his bald head also flushed.
I know. Just give me some time.
Back then, when they were imprisoned, where could the elderly at home get so much money to pay? I extended a helping hand and had them sign an IOU. Michael had to repay all the debts once he was released. Now, he had been out for almost a year and hadn't paid me a penny.
Emily? You're pregnant? I heard you got pregnant inside. Is the nickname Little Prisoner? Or maybe Little Green?
Emily's face turned pale with anger, but she still forced a smile.
Miss Sue, please give us a few more days. We will definitely repay the money. Cough, cough.
If she hadn't coughed, I wouldn't have noticed. Her face was as pale as paper, and she had many pustules on her face, looking quite terrifying. I threw away the roses and leaped out of the heart-shaped candle circle he had arranged on the ground. Today was supposed to be the day he proposed to me, May 21st, 2003. At this moment, Michael still didn't understand the meaning of Phoenix Man. He couldn't comprehend why I would treat him this way. After all, it was I who had pursued him before he proposed. It wasn't, as he claimed, that I forced him into marriage. Rather, it was his father, my former father-in-law, who had kidney cancer and needed a transplant. His ambiguous partner, Emily, fled abroad upon seeing the high costs. Only then did Michael remember me, the hopeless romantic, the fool, the backup plan, and reluctantly proposed to me to fill the bottomless pit of his family's expenses. Back then, when my dream man proposed, I was overjoyed and agreed without hesitation. But today, I would never agree again. I threw away the roses and leaped out of the heart-shaped candle circle he had arranged on the ground. Today was supposed to be the day he proposed to me, May 21st, 2003. At this moment, Michael still didn't understand the meaning of Phoenix Man. He couldn't comprehend why I would treat him this way.
Sarah, why are you doing this? I thought you wanted us to be together.
You don't get it, Michael. It wasn't me who pushed you into this marriage. It was your father, my former father-in-law, who needed a transplant. And when Emily ran away because of the high costs, you turned to me as a last resort.
But I love you, Sarah. I did propose, didn't I?
You only remembered me when you needed someone to fill the bottomless pit of your family's expenses. Back then, I was foolish enough to agree. But today, I know better.
Emily passed away a month later. When David told me, I was somewhat surprised.
The child was fathered by a male criminal. It is said that during a break, she had an encounter with him in the restroom.
What do you mean?
She didn't know that the man was a convicted rapist and murderer and a frequent visitor to the red light district. She originally wanted to get out of prison early but ended up contracting syphilis and HIV. She stayed in the ICU for a month and eventually, due to high blood pressure during labor, her body couldn't take it. She gave birth to a baby girl and then passed away.
A baby girl? That would be Lily? She still gave birth, and the baby survived.
My trembling hand clutched my chest, feeling suffocated and in pain.
Michael adopted the baby girl and named her Lily.
After David finished speaking, he quickly supported me as I felt the world go dark and fainted. Lily survived, and Emily died giving birth to her. Michael remained her convenient father. And me? Should I just let it go? I knew I couldn't.
Sarah, You're awake.
David held my hand, and my parents were also by my side. This was the hospital. Seeing me awake, my parents finally breathed a sigh of relief. Noticing their graying hair, I felt a pang of guilt and urged them to go home and rest.
So, everything I said came true. Lily was born, and in 18 years, I'll die at her hands.
Sarah, have you forgotten? HIV can be transmitted from mother to child.
My heart felt illuminated. So, Lily might only have 3 to 5 years at most. Good, good. A child who only brings harm is better off gone. After a day of rest, I was discharged from the hospital. As soon as I stepped out, I saw police cars parked at the entrance. Several nurses were gathered, pointing towards the inpatient department and discussing something.
Dead. Dead. That baby with HIV is dead, killed.
Yeah, it was her father. Oh no, her boyfriend.
Are you sure? Didn't he love her? How could he?
Before they finished speaking, I saw Michael being escorted out of the inpatient department by 2 police officers. He was covered in blood. Behind him, another officer was pushing a baby care bed covered with a white cloth, with blood still dripping from it occasionally.
Beast. Killing a baby.
Isn't he the owner of Zhao's barbecue stand? I heard he was just released a year ago.
People like him, they never change. Beast.
Hearing this, Michael suddenly started shouting like a madman.
You know nothing. She had HIV. She would only suffer more. I couldn't let her suffer. I love Anna. I understand her. I couldn't let her child suffer. I love her.
The police restrained him, and as he turned his head, he saw me.
Sarah. It's all your fault. You didn't save her. You killed Emily. You murderer. You wrecker.
Before he could finish, the police pushed him into the car. I looked at the still wet blood on the ground, feeling like everything was a dream. Lily was dead. I had my revenge.
Sarah, don't cry.
As he touched my face, I realized it was cold. Those were my tears. Now that my great revenge was achieved, I should be happy. I should be crying tears of joy. Whether she had nursed in my arms as a child or called me mom, I couldn't remember. Such a murderer was dead, I should be happy. So, I hugged David and cried loudly, disregarding my image. People in the hospital came and went, looking at me. They didn't know. I had my revenge.